Good morning, everybody. This is Judith Eckhope. You're listening to Mad Love. Let's get into it. So, I was just sitting here thinking over some of the milestones in my caregiving journey, and you know, I'll be honest, I haven't been feeling that great for the last, gosh, it's been a while. I mean, physically, April was spent cleaning out my brother's apartment, and that was hard. That was some serious manual labor, and it made me very frustrated and very angry at him for living like that. It was just filthy in there. And it's like you wouldn't let anybody help you. You hire two people who clearly don't care about cleanliness. You have tons of infections, yet you're fine with them doing a half-assed job as long as they bring you the food you want to eat. And I get it. He wanted to go out his own way, and that included lots of Whoppers and fried chicken and shit you shouldn't eat with congestive heart failure. And, I'm not judging him for that part, but I am a little mad. And so I have to look back and I think, gosh, April was just so much work. I mean, we just took big bag after big bag out of that place. Those industrial sized trash bags. And it was just unbelievable. And we had to move furniture out of there. And, it was just a lot of work, which I wasn't technically obligated to do. But I did it because, like my cousin said, our parents didn't raise us to just leave stuff. And I was like, ugh. So I did it. And I don't remember my stomach bothering me then. But May, I sprained my ankle, which was ridiculous. And so everything was like, slow down, you're going too fast. Because I was so happy to be done cleaning that place. I couldn't have been more thrilled to hand that lady those keys and to never go back there again. And I drive by his apartment pretty frequently. We live half a block from each other. And so I don't remember my stomach bothering me then. But at some point, maybe I got those results at the end of April, and I was super upset with my blood sugar. Like, nothing looked right. And then I sprained my ankle, like I said, which was ridiculous. And then at some point in May, in earnest, I really started to have like these stomach issues, like just digestive problems, just lots of indigestion, not feeling good. I don't know what happened, and it just seemed to get worse. And I changed my diet pretty dramatically to try to get my blood sugar down. I don't think that helped. And so also I think my body was just like, the adrenaline was dropping because, for years it was just everybody, I was just on guard for everything. Every little sound my mom would make, I'd have to go check on her. My brother would call, or his nurse would call, or somebody would call. And now I don't have that, and I just feel like my body is like, yeah, all that stuff you kept stuffing down or ignoring and you weren't paying attention, here you go. And so I feel like my nervous system is resetting, my adrenaline is dropping, and now my stomach is sort of like, here's the check. And it's nothing bad. Like, I can't explain. It's not like I feel like I need to go to the ER or anything like that. It's just definite issues that I would associate with long-term stress. And my body is trying to adjust and adapt. And I'm trying to adjust and adapt to it because I haven't been able to pay attention to myself like this. For all I know, this could have been happening the whole time and I just didn't notice it because, when half of your head is missing, you're not really paying attention to how your stomach feels. You know what I mean? Like, if your shoulder gets blown up, you're more concerned about your shoulder because that's the immediate situation. I sort of thought of it this morning as starting around 2017, someone just lit my clothes on fire. And by 2024, it was a raging fire. And by, earlier this year, with my brother also in hospice, it was just like people were like, your face is kind of melting. And I'd just be like, yeah, it's part of it. What you got for me? I just ignored all this shit because you have to stuff it down or you won't be able to take care of the person that you're taking care of. And you have to do an amazing, like God has done such a huge work in me because you have to stuff down your own feelings, any kind of resentment, any kind of frustration, because especially with dementia, because they mirror you. If you walk in the room like, good morning, they're going to be an asshole all day. They're going to be mad back. So you have to be like, good morning, how are you feeling today? And then, my mom would be like, I'm feeling good today, and it's like, okay. And you never know. I mean, and you got to do that all day, and even when you don't feel like. The only time I couldn't fake it was when, and most of the time I was genuinely happy to hang out with her because some days she could make some sense and some days it was just, she would say something funny. But it was really challenging at 3 o'clock in the morning to be pleasant. I really had a hard time with that. When I was supposed to be asleep and she was, knocking around or clunking around or doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing, I really had a hard time being like, good morning, hey! I would be like, what the fuck? Why aren't you asleep? But yeah, and I just want to give people a caution because I've noticed in my timeline, I'm seeing a lot more caregiver content. And I know why, because more and more people are having to become caregivers, and I get that. But here's the thing. This is what nobody's expecting. Your job, if you have to take care of somebody, you're going to have to negotiate this with your job because what happened for me was unique. This is God. You have to trust God's timing. So the boss that hired me, who really liked me and respected me, was great. We're still cool. He came to my mom's life celebration of life. He came to my goodbye party at the office. He's a fan, and I appreciate him. But the only good thing about him losing that election was his predecessor, who hated me and really went after me. At some point, got tired of hating me, started hating other people more, and he just started leaving me alone, which allowed me to work a flex schedule. And I did that. Now the people who took his place, they seemed like they understood that because I wouldn't call us friends, but we were friendly, work friends. Their offices were down the hall from me. And we had meaningful conversations a few times, but man, they got in there and they just started trying to talk to me like I was some little flunky. And it's like, well, you got to be here and you need to do this. And, and then they would be scared about it. Like, well, other people can't manage your team. So you just need to come in every day. I'll give you about a month, but you just got to. And I'm like, why would you start fucking with me? My mother died. But I took care of her for years and you all knew that. So why would you fuck with me? I'm a good worker. Now, one person in here could say they didn't have what they needed when they needed it because I would come in at 5:30 in the morning. One of you knows that. One of you remarked to the old boss how it was amazing that I sent him something for his trial at 5 in the morning. So it's like, okay. I'm telling you, there's going to be a real issue for people who work for other people. This is why I'm urging folks, not only for job security, but start buying businesses, invest in small businesses. If you have a little cash and somebody who's giving up their plumbing business, figure out how you can get a piece of that. Because I'm telling you, you're going to have time because you can't take care of people if you're stuck at an office. You got to start taking them to their doctor's appointment. And you can tell immediately who understands and who doesn't. because that's the kind of boss they are. And if you're a person that has to boss everybody around the same way, that means you lack talent. You're not good at being a manager because you have to manage the staff that you have. I'll use a sports analogy. The best one was Tony La Russa. Tony La Russa managed the team and the talent that he had. That's why he would try different things. That's why he was always doing something innovative, because he knew how to work with what he had. Then you'll have somebody like Mike Martz, who destroyed the Rams because he couldn't coach the talent that he had. He wanted everybody to run his system, whether he had the right people to do that or not. So his success was limited because he wasn't a good manager. He just was a person who created a system. The stars aligned, and you got Marshall Faulk and Kurt Warner, who was a bagger at a grocery store. We had Oz Hakeem, we had Isaac Bruce, we had Torrey Holt, and you can say you don't remember The Greatest Show on Turf, but I know you do. And fuck Stan Kroenke, but that team was amazing. And we were formidable. And would have stayed that way if we had kept a coach that got greedy, kicked Vermeil out, and then they thought Mike Martz can do it. And I don't know why they thought that, because he's nowhere to be found in the NFL, and no one will talk about him. That was fucking 26 years ago. So, and he just destroyed that team because he couldn't coach the talent he had. He only wanted to coach to his system. So that's when you get Mark Bulger. And no one even remembers Mark Bulger but me and people on the Rams. Yeah, he could throw the ball, but that's not enough. You need more. So I'm telling you, we're going to hit a crisis. People are going to get frustrated out here. They're going to look at their boss and be like, okay, so you all just don't care what happens to me. You smile and call me friend, but you don't really care. I'm telling you, I was really pissed off. And it's been a year since I left office. It'll be a year next month. And best decision I ever made. I felt really betrayed. And I had worked so hard, and to have someone openly hate you and you still thrive, then to have people who say they like you and then they try to fuck with you and put all these restrictions on your schedule. And it's like, if you need to see me sitting here, then I know you don't know how to manage a staff. And if you're doing it because someone else isn't strong enough to manage their team, which I have nothing to do with, but for some reason, this is your logic. Well, if she gets to do it, then I can't tell my team not to do it. Fucker, this is not second grade. Grow up. And it really bothers me because I've been a manager. I've had a staff. You know what I mean? It's like, you all aren't even qualified technically to do this. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm still a little mad, I guess. But that's okay. I'm not Jesus. I get mad. And, when things are unjust, I really get mad. And I feel like we have a crisis in so many areas of America. There's a crisis of leadership. Nobody seems to know what they're doing. We have a crisis of accountability. No one seems to care if what they're doing is illegal or wrong because they know nobody's going to do anything. This is the least threatening justice department I've ever seen in America. They're not even pretending, And then you got a crazy president. He doesn't seem to follow any rules. He don't give a shit. So you're going to have to figure out how you're going to maneuver this. Will we make it? Of course. Will it be challenging? Yes. But unless this thing gets ripped down to the studs, we're going to be in trouble. We need to build it all back. If you're a politician right now, you need to be fired. Anybody sitting in a political office needs to just be stripped of all their titles and duties, from local all the way up to federal, because none of this works as long as money is in politics. The first rule of the land has to be no money in politics. Serve the people. And then term limits and age limits. These people are greedy and evil, and your favorite politician is one of them. Then none of those people are here to serve you. They're serving themselves. I've seen it up close for myself, and I can see it still playing out now. You know, these people are self-serving and they will say anything. They are lethal, and they know that folks will just, pay them for their silence or their service. If you're getting millions of dollars from a foreign government, why in the world would anybody think you're going to do the right thing by your constituents? This whole thing needs to just stop and start all over again. This SpaceX IPO, don't try to get in on that. That company is super overvalued. It's going to go up and then it's going to crash to earth. And here's the problem. There are many, many more sophisticated people than you who've already purchased and sold their shares, yes, before this has even happened. I guarantee you. They work on computers that work a lot faster than your E-Trade account. And that ship has already sailed, and the people who are going to get rich off of it have already gotten rich. And it won't be you or me. Although I would never buy that. I don't like or trust or respect Elon Musk. He's somebody born in another country who seems to hate America, but has this cult of personality that makes people lose their minds. I think people are selling all kinds of shit to get on this SpaceX, but it's like, if you're a regular buyer, you're never going to make what the people who have already been on the inside of this will make. And then it's going to plummet, and you're going to be stuck with all these shitty shares. And then you got Sam Altman, who's a scammer of the century. He's filed for his IPO. You know why these big ass tech companies are filing IPOs? Because they're not making any money. And they're going to leave you holding the bag. You're going to give them all this money because you think it's a great IPO to be a part of. And then they're going to shit the bed because they will have absconded with all the money they need to finally make them profitable. I love ChatGPT, but I wouldn't give him any of my money. Not like that. I already have issues with myself paying for the monthly subscription, but it's such a valuable service. But I don't like Sam Altman. There's something wrong with him. He clearly states, like, if we don't do this IPO, we're going to tank. We're not making any money. That's why they want to build the data centers. Yes, they want to surveil people because that's what the government would pay them for. But the reality is they're all getting in on data centers because they need the money. They need the cash and they need the tax write-offs. Because AI isn't doing what they thought it was going to do. And I think if you check some of my older episodes, I said that. There's not enough infrastructure. There's not enough electricity. There's not enough resources to make it become what they want it to become. For AI, and same with electric cars. There's not enough resources. When we were driving through Tennessee, we drove through the mountains two ways. The first way was like going through a little town. It was weird. It was like a little Tennessee town, and then you just driving through the mountains, like you just going up and up and up and then down and then up and then down. Well, the route that I intended to go was the route we took on the way back. And on that route, it's nothing but mining happening. Oh, they're trying to make you believe they're doing something to the roads, but in reality, with all those dump trucks, they are mining something. And I think that's where the hurricane hit, because they wanted all this nickel under the ground. And so they try to make you feel like, oh, we're shoring up the highway. But when you look down in that cavern, it's nothing but dump trucks hauling out. So we are in an interesting time in history. I think astrologically, no one's ever lived through a period like this that's alive right now. So yeah, hang on in there. But be smart, be brave, and, trust God. Trust God, because God's timing is perfect. Even when you think it's not, it is. So that's all I got for you today. Covered a lot of ground, but I want you to be alert and aware, because I'm telling you, many of you are going to think your boss is so great, and then your mom has a car accident and she needs your care, and they're going to be like, well, you have to be here. And if your job is flexible and can be done flexibly, which we all learned through the fake ass event that was COVID, if all jobs can be work from home. And I think they hated that happened or that they created a situation where workers started to feel empowered because, people are like, I don't have to be sitting here to get my work done. Hell yeah. But I've known that because I do media stuff. I don't have to be sitting in there to edit videos, But yeah, we're going to see a lot of changes. And I think people are going to stand up for themselves here. This is getting fucking ridiculous. All right, that's all I got for you. Hot take. But not really. Fuck this. All right. Have a great day. It is the 10th, Wednesday, the 10th. Be great.